show does not come with instructions. Think at your own risk. The Kate Daly Show starts now.
It is literally a matter of life and death for the people of North Carolina. So my name is Jonathan Howard. I'm a member of the Florida State Guard Special Missions Unit. And I'm also up here with Aerial Recovery, a nonprofit. Here's the problem. I'm going to tell you everything that's happening from the ground, what I'm actually seeing, because what they're telling you is complete bullshit on the news, and these politicians don't include, and they're lying. And I'll say this now, I'll say it at the end of the video. The only thing I need from this video is helicopters. If I have helicopters, I can save lives. Without helicopters, I can't reach these people. It doesn't matter how many chainsaws and trucks I got, I can't get to them. They're 10 miles in, 20 miles, 40 miles in the mountains. I am literally flying around in a civilian helicopter looking for SOS messages carved in the mud or painted on the ground, and we're dropping down and saving them. What got me fired up about this was yesterday, me and my team did the rescue of that 11-day-old baby. And all these government officials and social media, they're showing that video, that pictures and video of that rescue, and claiming like they have some like government helped with that. No, it was me, my buddy Charlie, and a civilian named Zeb with his own personal helicopter out of Wilmington, North Carolina. When I flew here on Sunday, they actually stopped us from going in, the sheriff department. And it was because of a bunch of politics that they were claiming was the Speaker of the House of North Carolina that was preventing us from even going in and trying to kick us out.
All right, welcome. Kate Daly Show at your service today, and so appreciate you listening in. I've got two great guests today. We had a really great, really graceful in the beginning of the show, and now I have a very special guest, the Jeff Dornik Show. Jeff Dornik, how are you?
Doing really well. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you. We're going to be talking a little bit about censorship, industrial complex. I actually like that term, Jeff, by the way. And boy, I should know I'm censored now and have been so since right after I started on the radio. So I know that well, and we'll talk about that. And I also just wanted to say something about that clip coming in. He's talking about boots on the ground. He's talking about the fact that basically government is stopping people from trying to help, and then trying in the press like USA Today to claim that it's that it's certain people doing all the rescuing like government, and when it's boots on the ground, people helping people. And I'm so glad people are speaking out, that we have that medium to speak out and say the truth so that people know what's actually going on. Instead of the media bought and sold approach to trying to tell us what's going on. And like I said in the first hour, I just wanted to tell people on Drudge, the top story is Vance winning. On CNN, the top story is Israel, and then three about Kamala. We call her Hormala on the show. And then we have Fox News, one news story about the aftermath of what's going on, and the fact that King Dingaling finally said, gee, maybe I'll send 1,000 people in from the National Guard. What? Now? It's been 5 days. What? And then big news today, by the way. Oh, and then Fox, 3 more for Kamala, 3 articles on Kamala. And then what just came out, hat tip, Mike, thank you, was the AP saying that Mayorkas is instructing everybody in the nation right now that FEMA doesn't have enough money now to go through the hurricane season. Let that rest for just a moment before you get really angry, because I can't. We're sending so many billions of dollars to the laundromat in Ukraine, and we're sending money over to Israel. What about our country? What about our people? What about what's going on right here? We have a lot going on right here. And so he's sending a whole 1,000 troops at some point. We don't know yet. And then Mayorkas is saying they don't have enough money. What are your thoughts on this, Jeff? I can't wait to get your thoughts on this.
It shows how utterly inept our government actually is. I mean, when you actually sit down and think about it, like you mentioned, obviously we're sending a lot of money over to Ukraine. Obviously, we're sending money over to Israel. We're sending, but it's not just these 2 wars that are going on. We've been doing this for years and years and years, sending money to our enemies, sending money to, other countries that are fully dependent upon us, while our veterans are homeless out on the street, while our people can't afford to buy bread and butter and milk. Like, when you actually think about this, we are putting everybody else first, and then basically saying screw you to every single United States of America citizen. And that's the problem that we have. And is that, you can listen to the rhetoric. They say, we love you, we care about you, we're here for you guys.
Right.
So much so to even like with like Second Amendment stuff. They're like, you don't need a gun, trust the police. At what point are we going to realize we have to fend for ourselves, because our government isn't going to save us? They shouldn't be saving us.
Amen.
But also, when we are dependent upon them and they're forcing us to be dependent upon them, and when we actually need them, as with what we do with these hurricanes and awful disasters and all of that, they're going to give us pennies on the dollar compared to what we're doing to everybody else. Look at what happened in Maui. What'd they give everybody? $700. They're talking about doing the exact same thing here. And you mentioned the 1,000 troops that they're sending down. Like, that's not even, from what I understand when I was reading the article earlier, that's not even pertaining to rescuing people, saving people. That's to distribute food and water and certain kinds of supplies. So basically, for what everybody else is already there doing, volunteering for free, handing stuff out, we are going to pay to send our troops down there, not to rescue people, not to do search and rescue, help people that are trapped or whatever. It's to distribute food that volunteers are already doing. How does any of this make any sense whatsoever?
It doesn't. And it's funny. I had that thought again. It's almost as if they're throwing the race for president with this type of stuff. It's like, how can we, and I know that's an odd thought for a lot of people, but it certainly is that bad to say we are so proud of ourselves that we just gave $8 billion here and $8 billion there overseas. And by the way, no money for hurricane season. And we got a lot more on the way. And we're not really going to do much about what's going on to the right half of our country. Okay. So it almost feels, to the extent that they're throwing this thing, because the news is, you can't make this up. I mean, I would have thought that was a Babylon Bee.
Yeah,
so crazy.
Well, I mean, and think about this too, because like you said, we're sending billions and billions of dollars over to Ukraine and these other countries. But even when it's not authorized by Congress, which is technically supposed to be, Joe Biden and the government are going into different departments and saying, like, well, look, we've got some extra money here. We can reproportion it, and we're going to still send it over to Ukraine. Why can't they do that for hurricanes? Can someone just explain that to me?
I know.
If they can find a lost $6 billion or however many billions of dollars that they found that they sent over to Ukraine, why can't they do that for Ukraine? Think about the military industrial complex, how much money we are spending on that and overpaying all of these companies. You'd think you'd be like, okay, Boeing, let's just hold off a little bit on the airplane. We'll take the $1 billion we're going to spend on this one plane, and we're going to send it down here to North Carolina. Like, at a certain point, you're like, can we just use our brains a tiny bit?
No, they can't. And if you owe $100 in taxes, they'll come to you, right, for that. But they can't find all of this money being laundered. And it's always in these really big, huge amounts. And of course, BlackRock's in charge of it. So I don't suspect that we'll ever find it ever again. But I love your approach and talking about these things very plainly, because most of the media is very co-opted, and most of the media is not going to even talk about this today. Look, I just read through the headlines. They're not even concerned, really. It's almost like, well, there was a storm, and I mean, it's been amazing to me how downplayed it's been. You as well?
Oh yeah, for sure. Gosh. I was talking with my friend Matt Couch yesterday about this, and I believe last reports like 100 people died in the hurricane,
200.
which 200 people, which is astronomical for something like this. Like normally there'll be a handful of people that die, but in general we've got good infrastructure, we've got good evacuation, we've got good scenarios and good rescue teams to actually get in there and help people that may be trapped and things like that. But 200 people dying in a hurricane is like, what happened? And Matt and I were sitting on the phone yesterday, and we're like, something is off with this story. Simply for the fact of why did so many people die in this? I just don't understand it.
And the location where it landed, and of course the fact that they didn't have any warning whatsoever. I'm sorry, we put a lot of money in warning systems. And so was there an intensification of a storm that was already upon them? And was it directed to be somewhere else? Dane Wigington thinks so. Dane Wigington put out there, yeah, this was 100% geoengineered to be guided and directed. Maybe not all the way created. That could be debated. But guided, directed, intensified? Do we have the capability? Yeah. There's lots of patents. I read through them on Tuesday. We got lots of patents for this. And so even with the response on top of it, that should be a very suspicious feeling for people because of even the response. There's no response to this thing. So that would lead a lot of people and the citizens of these states, especially there in North Carolina. First thing I started seeing in the feeds was if they could get to internet, and when they did, is this a land grab? What's going on here? Nothing's normal about this because they were declared a safe city. They were telling people in California, if you're in the fire zones, come live in Asheville where it's completely safe and you can reside here forever without anything happening because we're so far away from the coast and you're safe here. Well, not so much. And they were supposed to start implementing their smart city in November. November to January is when they were going to implement this huge award that they got for being a smart city. And all I kept thinking was, well, now they're in total destruction. That smart city is going to get a whole lot more money to become even smarter, right? More confining.
Yeah, I mean, again, you go back and you look at what happened in Maui. There's so many red flags that happened in Maui.
Yeah.
Clearly, that was a land grab. The people are just tossed off to the side, the whole deal. I wouldn't be surprised. And you mentioned weather modification and weather manipulation and all that. And it's one of those things where it's worth asking the question. And I always say, I know that I don't always know exactly what happened,
right,
but a lot of times I know what didn't happen. And I can also kind of decipher between here's the different possibilities. So it could be something that was intentionally created and manipulated and pushed in. The other thing that a lot of people don't or a lot of people forget when it comes to weather manipulation, and I've studied this extensively because out here in California we have a very robust weather manipulation program that's they're very out in the open about it. And what's interesting is that you look at this and we start seeing all these crazy storms and all that. At what point is it just the fact we've been screwing with God's intended order so much that it's going haywire? I mean, look at our bodies, and RFK has been talking about this extensively.
Yes.
The chronic disease epidemic across this country. When you think about it, when we're exposed to all these toxins, all these pesticides, all these chemicals, all these pharmaceutical drugs, everything, to a certain point, your body's like, it's not supposed to be like this. Why couldn't the same thing be happening with weather?
I'm going to be right back with Jeff Dornik from the Jeff Dornik Show. And we've got more to talk about. Stay with us. Be right back. Kate Daly.
Your family still matters. Paintball foods go.